Guys, I hope this weekend was as solid as any other weekend, and you guys enjoyed whatever it is that you guys do during the weekend. I honestly have just been counting my blessings living up here in Northern California and having just absolute amazing weather for the past week or so up here. Unfortunately, other parts of the country are struggling with bad weather outside, so let's pray for them and hope that they can get back to nice sunshine and beautiful breezes outside like I've been living the last week. So prayers up for them. But anyway, we are back for episode 1-3 of the podcast, and I brought on one of my favorite film and TV experts to discuss all things TV shows and our top 10 list of our favorite adult TV shows. Ladies and gentlemen, Isaiah Vivero. I realize that there's no one listening to this, but anyway, Isaiah is actually currently in the middle of applying to film schools and has basically been a film, TV, and comic book, as well as basketball nerd his whole life. He'd love me for putting the basketball thing in there. He's honestly one of the best creators that I've seen and been around, and he has a tremendous vision for film, content creation, and storytelling in general. The essential question of the episode, which is probably something that you assumably guessed, is what are your favorite TV shows right now as an adult? Having Isaiah on this episode is super timely since the both of us have basically watched a shit ton of TV, and we have talked about TV endlessly throughout both our high school years and even through college. This episode is actually a sequel to our childhood TVs episode that we did, episode 3, for those of you that remember way back with Keshav. And here we are talking about all things with TV shows that we basically have loved since the age of about 12 to 13 years old to the present. Also, a little disclaimer, there was some internet difficulty, so sorry if the audio does lag a little bit. And also, gotta shout out Isaiah's grandma too. You'll see why later though. You have to wait and see, watch the episode. Isaiah was a fantastic guest. Absolutely would love to have him back again. But we also talked a little bit of basketball before we get into our top 10 rankings of TV shows. So the episode does have something in it for everyone. Sports, non-sports, TV, non-TV, everybody. Honestly, those of you that need a new TV show, watch this episode. Those of you that want to reminisce on the old shows, watch this episode. And those of you that honestly just like to rank shit, watch this episode. So here it is. Episode 13, episode 13. It's gonna be a dope one, so cue it up. Coming to you live from my parents' house, we got episode 13 of the Essential Question podcast, live and on Zoom. I got my guy, the film god himself, editor for episode 10, Scotchy,
Oh my God.
Isaiah Vivero. What's going on,
What's
man?
up? What's up?
How you doing?
Glad I'm finally on the pod.
Yes. It was about time, dude. It'd been a
Yeah.
fucking minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you had to warm up a little before you get me on, though.
Yeah, I know. I had to put 12 episodes out there. You know, get a body of work,
I'm
submit
the
it to
baker's
you.
dozen.
Exactly. There you go. You know, number 13. I couldn't get 17. I know that's your favorite number, but
True.
yeah, I
17 or 11, so somewhere in the middle, I guess.
I know. So I guess like you got the average, which is pretty decent, but like
I don't think that's the average, but
oh no, okay. This just proves I can't do math, but
we were both in stats and sports.
This is
so.
true. Shout out stats and sports, by the way.
Yeah.
But introduce yourself to like give the audience a little like 2-sentence Wikipedia summary of yourself and like tell them why you're here. Why you think you deserve to judge adult TV shows today, which is our essential question.
Well, so I think I can judge adult TV shows because I also want to make adult TV shows one day, but also I watch a lot of them. So, you know, just TV. I gravitate to TV as a medium in general just because of the long form storytelling and character building that it allows. So,
yeah.
And I'm a filmmaker.
That's true. This guy makes like godly films, man. Like his filmmaking is definitely on par. Like we've had some good content creators up here. He's one of the top ones for sure.
I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, he could, and he's like very artsy. So those of you who are like into like the indie Instagram feeds with like the nice photog, like he's your guy. So
the indie Instagram feeds.
Yeah,
mine's a little dark for indie.
Little indie.
I mean, I shoot concerts edgy. And stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pre-COVID. Yeah,
it's a little edgy, a little moody, but you know.
Yeah.
It's
very aesthetically pleasing.
Aesthetically
pleasing for sure.
True, it's cohesive. I like to say there's like definitely a style forming there.
There you go. Yeah, I can see it.
So, yeah.
But of course, before we get into the essential question of the day, which is which adult TV shows are your favorite, which is actually technically a sequel to episode 3, which is what were your favorite childhood TV shows. We're going to get Isaiah into this rapid fire intro that I've specially designed toward
Oh,
his interests. So let's see if he can pass this
I wasn't
test.
prepared for this.
So I guess the theme that we're going for this week, since we're talking all about TV, we're gonna do a little bit of TV and we're gonna talk a little bit of basketball because I know those are two of your favorite things
Okay.
in the world. So
Yeah,
I think you could talk a little hoops too. So
for sure.
we'll start with the first question. What was the first film or TV show that you ever watched?
That I ever watched.
Ever?
I'm pretty sure the first film I ever watched was Lion King.
Okay.
Like my dad could probably attest to that. And the first TV show, I mean, it must have been some sort of like animated Disney show. But the first ones I remember were like the Nickelodeon iCarly shows. And then when I was too young, I was watching like what are those reality shows
Yeah.
about like violent stuff though. Like I don't know if you've ever seen Deadliest Warrior,
I've never seen that.
but
I've seen
it's
Fear
like
Factor. But
oh, okay. It's nothing like that, I don't think, but it's like basically like a historically based TV show
okay.
that takes like warriors from different time periods and puts them up together scientifically, but it's like no, it's all fake.
That's kind of sick though. That sounds really cool.
Yeah. It's very nostalgic. It's so nostalgic that I bought the first season like for like $40 just so I could revisit it.
Is it
Yeah.
on your list?
No, but you might want to classify it as an honorable mention.
Okay, we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it a
Yeah.
little bit. So why is film and like content creation like important to you? Like what's your why is it important?
I think film and TV and just like the whole both mediums, is like a huge escapist kind of thing. Like everyone watches movies because they want to feel a different way or like want to escape their lives for just like at least 2 hours or like 45-minute episodes or whatever it is. And just like giving people stories that they can relate to is like, I think that's just an important thing in general and something that I really gravitate to.
For sure.
So
Yeah. Is that like why you feel like you want to make films is just like to create these stories that people
yeah,
can
I
just
mean,
kind of get away to?
it feels almost like diversity is kind of a trend, but it's something like I felt very strongly about all the time was like just telling different stories that
Mm-hmm.
like aren't just about race and aren't just about certain subsections, but just like a different lifestyle, if that makes sense.
For sure. Like different, just like completely off the map, like cultures or life stories and
Yeah,
stuff like
like things
that.
you don't think about all the time, but like
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely feel that way as well. Like different story, like the more unique a story you can get, like the better I feel like people are just going to like resonate with it and like, like feel
Yeah.
like that it's important. So, that's a good answer for that question. So the next one is, what projects have you recently been working on and like what have you been recently up to in your creative adventures?
So recently I've done a lot of writing, just because I mean I think in terms of like film projects, it's important right now to do a lot of writing because with the whole COVID restrictions and stuff, it's kind of hard to actually get out and make a lot of things. So
Mm-hmm.
like I wrote a crime thriller short film that I plan on making once it's like available. And right now I'm writing a feature length for a class, but I'm really liking it. It's kind of just like an analysis of local news and how it kind of follows like the same trend as like national news, and also just like kind of those themes of like fake news in a way.
Interesting.
Um, Not necessarily fake news. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with yellow journalism. You probably are,
I
right?
do know yellow journalism. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like a modern retelling of yellow journalism, but like with a modern spin.
Interesting. Are you doing it through like a newsroom or like
So
what?
it's set like at a local newspaper.
Okay,
So
for
and
sure.
it's like it's about how the newspaper's kind of dying
Yeah,
because
because like
very
broadcasts. Yeah,
little people read local news. Like
yeah,
yeah,
no,
so
for sure.
it's about the paper, and there's a few different themes that I'm tackling through it.
That's dope.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one for
Yeah,
sure.
that should be really exciting. I feel like very timely for the time.
It is
So
very timely. I
yeah,
was almost like scared when I was writing it. Like if I were to tell this to people, like, is it just like too in your face? So I'm kind of trying to not make it as like political, but more about how just the news system kind of like is like and the next or like it kind of just fictionalizes things sometimes.
Mm-hmm. No, most definitely. Like I feel like with film, it's kind of hard now in like this day and age because I feel like everyone wants to politicize everything and be like, oh,
Yeah.
like this is, you know, like pro this policy or pro this when it's like, dude, I'm just trying to make a story that people enjoy.
Exactly.
Like
I'm not trying to pick a side, but I'm trying to just like commentate on how the structure in general, like no matter what side you're for, is like kind of failing.
For sure, 100%.
Yeah.
Definitely, we gotta talk another episode about that. But when it
Yeah.
comes out, maybe. This one's gonna be kind of crazy. Estimate how many television shows have you watched in your lifetime? Like, just estimate. Throw out a number.
Oh my God. I don't know. Probably like, I wouldn't say like 100, but maybe nearing there, like late 80s, maybe 90s.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, for me, like I was thinking about it, and I was like, I've watched a lot of TV shows in that like I watch a couple episodes and then I leave it, and then I'm like,
I've
okay.
done that, but I was thinking like things I've watched through and through.
Okay, yeah, through and through, I feel like, yeah, I mean, 80 to 100 is definitely about the range that I'm in.
Yeah.
I wish I had a list, you know, like I wish I had like a list on my phone where I just wrote down everything I've ever watched.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I can do that for movies. There's an app called Letterbox that basically does that for movies, where you track like a diary.
Okay.
But for TV, there's nothing really. The best I can do is like go through IMDb TV shows.
Yeah.
But even that's a little off. I wish there was just like an internal database that's like everything you've ever seen.
I know, right? Maybe one day
Like,
when we're like 40 years old, they're come out with these like databases of all the content we've ever consumed.
oh, you just put a chip in your head and it just cracks
it's just and it's just like,
Yeah.
whoa.
That would be kind of scary, actually.
I would be really scary. Little Black Mirror episode type thing. Like, but yeah, who inspires you in like in the creative industry? Like, why? Like, who is like a person or like a concept or anything that just like inspires you to be better?
Damn, I feel like there's a few. If I had to cite like one director that I really like that has like wanted me to push myself more, there's a director called Alfonso Cuarón.
Okay.
I don't if you've seen Roma.
Mm-hmm.
He directed Roma.
Yeah.
He's directed like big movies and small movies, and I think that's really inspirational because his style kind of comes through, and like his voice still comes through depending on the scale of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And also he's a Mexican filmmaker, so that's always cool.
Yeah.
Just seeing someone you relate to that way. But he's probably the biggest inspiration when it comes to like within the filmmaking world.
Nice. Didn't he did a Harry Potter movie, I remember.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't love Harry Potter, but I'll support his movie. Yeah.
I actually didn't really, I mean, I think he just kind of like made it his own, which is like what I remember, because it just wasn't related to the book in any like, because it's Prisoner of Azkaban. So
yeah, I haven't seen it in maybe a few years.
Yeah.
And I mean, I probably saw it when I was like before I was even like 13. So
for sure.
I kind of I'm interested in revisiting that one because I love his movies so much.
Yeah. Yeah, it was solid though. And I love Roma. We had to watch it for a class, and it was like it was such a well put together movie. It just like felt very pretty to look at. And it was,
in my opinion, that movie was like robbed of Best Picture, but that's
what won that year? I'm trying to remember.
The Green Book.
Oh God, over Roma?
Yeah. What? Right.
Dude, yeah, Green Book was a little sus.
Yeah, it felt. I mean, it felt like white savory and like.
Yeah.
I just remember some people really liked it, but then they wouldn't have like a serious discussion about Roma. So I was just like disrespected. I feel like Roma had a couple things working against it. The fact that it was in subtitles in like a different language, and the fact that it was on Netflix.
Yeah, that's true. Because I guess Netflix is like excludable in a lot of ways in terms of like, you know, not everyone being able to see it. But yeah. All right, so let's
Parasite won next year, I think.
Parasite's fantastic. For those of you who haven't watched Parasite, go watch it.
It's great.
Yeah, great storytelling. And the director's super funny. He was like, I'm going to drink all night long. I was like, you go do that.
Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah. Yeah, great guy. So let's transition a little bit to the NBA. I know you're a big
Okay.
NBA guy, big basketball head over here. Had a
Yeah,
channel
for
called
sure.
Hoopville back in the day.
For like a week,
For a week,
for like 2 weeks.
like 11 subs, pretty good, pretty good. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at that rate, we're hitting a milli pretty fast.
yeah, exactly. You're gonna hit Mike Korzemba status at that point. Um,
Oh yeah, for
but
sure.
what's your favorite storyline been in the NBA so far this year? Because we're talking all stories
Oh,
and
that's a
stuff. So
great
go for
question.
it.
I think Steph is the obvious answer.
Yeah.
That's been a good one, but I'm not gonna say that's like my favorite, even though
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed watching it. Um, Shout out to Dame as well. His team's been injured.
Yeah.
Um, I think the most interesting one was probably honestly Toronto because they had such a rocky start.
Mm-hmm.
They had like a really rocky start, and they're
Very.
not
Yeah.
playing at home. Like they don't have a single home game if you think
Yeah.
about it. So
All
I
in
think
Florida.
them, yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
think them having a rocky start and not having great center play, but then they started putting it together. I think they're like 15 and 14 now, or 14 and 15,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like back in the hunt. I think that's probably my favorite. But I also
Yeah.
really like Joel Embiid putting things
Joel's been a
together.
great storyline so far this year.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Oh wait, the Knicks.
Oh, of course. I knew this was coming.
I love the Knicks. Julius Randle, All-Star season, bro. Julius Randle's my guy.
Did he make like the reserves or I know he didn't make
They
the
haven't announced
starters.
the
Oh,
reserves.
okay.
They're pushing hard, dude. I feel like New York's gonna make it happen. New
Yeah.
York has to make it happen. But Tibbs has been one of my favorite coaches, like throughout. Like they always play hard defense,
Yeah.
and they traded for Derrick Rose, which is the reason I love basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Like that story is up there. Them in Toronto.
Yeah. How has Rose like set on the floor for the Knicks yet? Because I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
like
he's had a
COVID
couple
protocols.
games.
Okay.
He comes off the bench, which is like perfect for him right now.
Mm-hmm.
A part of me wishes like the Knicks were more of a contender for him,
Yeah.
but it seems like he's just having fun playing basketball, which is
That's good. We always like to see that. So
yeah,
I mean, I feel like I don't know. I feel like the Knicks could be like a candidate to sneak into the playoffs this year.
they definitely could. With Miami struggling, which is kind of
Yeah.
sad because that's another one of my teams, but
Yeah. I like Miami a lot.
they play hard, man.
Yeah, we got him. We got him on Thursday, so
Yeah,
that was nice. But okay, here's another one. What are a couple of like really flaming hot takes that you got from this NBA season? They're gonna piss off some people.
oh, I have to think about this. Okay. Uh, well, at the beginning of the season, I thought Luca was like playing really soft and like I don't think he has a case for MVP right now at
Mm-hmm.
all. But I don't know if that's like a hot take. I think Zach Levine's overrated for sure. I
Mm-hmm.
think well, you tweeted about Zach Levine.
I'm a big Levine guy, so
Yeah, I think
yeah,
Zach Levine's overrated. He's a certified bucket getter. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
other than that, I don't see anything he really brings to the floor.
yeah.
Um, and other hot takes. Damn, this is kind of hard.
I
'Cause, I wish I
thought
was
you were gonna say
prepared.
something about the Lake Show or the
Dude,
Nets.
as much as the Nets can't play defense, but that's
I
not a
mean,
hot take.
that's like a fact.
No, dude. The thing was like when the Harden trade went down, like I didn't feel like they were contender or they were favorites, but they're definitely contenders.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Giannis needs to play off ball.
Yeah.
He can't handle the rock. He's never
Mm-hmm.
he's never gonna win a championship if he's the main ball handler.
Okay.
And Coach Bud can't coach.
But
Yeah, he doesn't make adjustments. He's too stuck in his own ways, and that
Yeah.
causes him to lose every time. Oh, the Jazz are just I still don't take them seriously.
for
Even
sure.
after their streak, I don't think they're legit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're the 2016 Hawks though, because they have like a certified like bucket getter in Donovan Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
When those Hawks were really reliant on team basketball.
Definitely. Yeah.
And the Knicks won the Porzingis trade.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
seems like it so far. I mean, Porzingis has been off the court more than he's been on. So, like, I feel like they definitely have one. I mean, availability is the
think about
best
it.
ability. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you think about it, the players they got with the cap space they had from trading Kristaps was Julius Randle and Marcus Morris. And then they traded Marcus Morris for Emmanuel Quickly's pick, essentially. So they have
Mhm.
Emmanuel Quickly, Julius Randle, and then they have 2 more first round picks, one being this year in this stacked draft class. And who knows if Dallas is going to make the playoffs.
Yeah. I don't know. It's 50-50 with Dallas. I mean, Dallas is one of those teams that could just turn up during the second half of the year and just really, make a push. But we'll have to see. I think Miami's going to make a push in the second half of the year. They look
Spo usually makes that happen.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas doesn't make the playoffs, but I would still put money on them making at least the play in.
Yeah. No, I can see it. And then last question for the rapid fire section, which you've been acing so far.
Thank you.
Thoughts on the Warriors? This team right here, man, the Dubs.
Dude, they're a lot of fun to watch. They have moments where I'm like kind of mad. Yesterday, like the loss against the Magic.
Absolutely.
That pissed me off. But honestly, like this year, if we make the playoffs, I'm happy. We make it as the 7th, 6th seed. I'm very happy. If we're able to keep Kelly Oubre, the future is looking really bright. Like even like Nico Mannion's your guy.
He's my guy.
I wasn't super high on him like coming into the draft.
Yeah. I like where they got him. That's my thing. It was like they got him as like in a late, kind of late second round, kind of a project guy, like with so much untapped potential. Like he was the 3rd guy at Arizona, so you kind of undershadowed a little bit. So like I like where they got him. Like if they picked him up like late first round, I wouldn't like the pick as much, but I really liked it where they got him. And
we got great value for it. And the minutes that he played, I liked him. And then James Wiseman looks like an absolute stud, and Wiggins' defensive potential is
two-way Wigs, bro. Two-way Wigs.
If he plays like this for the rest of his career, like even if he doesn't make an all-star team or something, he's still like phenomenal.
Yeah. No, he's playing at a really high level right now. Yeah. And same with, Kelly Oubre in the month of February. I was listening to the radio the other day, and they were just like, he's averaging like almost 20 points a game, like 5 assists. Like he's been and shooting on like 43% from 3, which is like, like comparatively to like the beginning of the year, like he's really freaking stepped it up. So
it was definitely a slow start, but it made sense. Like, first off, this is his 3rd team in like 4 years. So it's been hard for him to find a home. I hope he stays. And like the new system, it's hard to learn. Like there was a shortened off season. There was no training camp really. And he got traded, and they brought him in because like we had no cliff. So
no, I agree. I think I think things are starting to look up a little bit, but I feel like with the Warriors, like when they get a little hot, then they get cold again. You know what I mean? Like,
that's been the case with Steph. Like he goes off for like 10 games and then he's cold for 2 games.
Yeah. I mean, he's been ice cold through Miami and Orlando. So
thank God we won the Miami game.
Yeah.
It was,
he came through at the end, but
he was clutch, but he had a bad shooting night. And Orlando wasn't great either, even though he had like 20 and 10.
For sure. Going to be interesting to see what they do tonight. But we could talk about all things Warriors basketball on another podcast. Isaiah is very knowledgeable about the game, so he's super fun to have on and talk about that. But let's talk all things TV shows, because that's what we're here to do today, and adult TV shows in particular. And so what I had Isaiah and what I did as well is I took my top 10 favorites and kind of compiled them into a top 10 list just based on, I guess, my criteria. And I think Isaiah will further kind of explain his criteria. Mine was just how much I enjoy them, kind of like cultural significance, as well as just like the writing. So like those were the 3 things I kind of judged it on, was sort of cultural context, the way I enjoyed, like how I enjoyed the television show personally. And I forgot what the 3rd thing was. But and the writing. And so those are the 3 things I kind of looked for in the list. Isaiah, what did you look for?
I think mine kind of just boiled down to like, did I like this show? Like how much I like the show. Like
for sure.
There's a certain thing. Like there's shows I've rewatched like not hundreds of times, but dozens of times, certain episodes within those shows. And that's kind of all because of the writing and of the filmmaking. Yeah. And so it's just the simplest thing is like, it's my favorite. How much of
right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, with my shows, like I feel like there's a lot of I think there could potentially be a lot of recency bias in terms of like the shows that I have on the list. Like most of them are from the 2010s, like to be fair. I mean, but that's kind of the era where I was an adult. So to be fair, that's going to be there. But also, I feel like a lot of the shows I have aren't necessarily like considered by critics to be like the best shows of all time. And you'll kind of see it as we go up the list. Like you're going to be like, oh, that's kind of high, but I'm going to be like, I really enjoyed that show and I just enjoyed the content. So that's why I have it there. You could feel free to disagree. And I'm sure we will. And that's again why I brought Isaiah on the pod, was because he's going to have a drastically different list than I am. Like I already know it. Like, and I think he knows it too. So
Yeah, probably.
yeah.
I
And
have a couple of shows I'm expecting on your list. It's one specifically.
oh, okay. Yeah, now I know. So and it's top 10. So I think we'll just go 10 to 1 if that's cool with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go first with number 10?
Yeah, I have a couple honorable mentions.
Okay, yeah, go for it. We can do honorable mentions.
It's like actually kind of a lot, but
go for it.
It kind of hurt leaving Atlanta and Peaky Blinders off the show, but I haven't finished them, so I didn't feel like it was worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Daredevil is a nerd favorite, and then Breaking Bad obviously is a great show, but I didn't have the same attachment as like others did. And then Friday Night Lights was also like
that was my honorable mentions, yeah.
And then Fleabag, I really like, and then the one that was really struggling to cut was Insecure by Issa Rae. So that, like, on any other given day, that could slip into 10 over what I have at 10.
For sure. I think my honorable mentions, I have a few. One of my favorite honorable mentions that I was really looking for a place for on the list was Ballers with Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Oh.
I love that show so much. I think it's so well done, and it like really represents like the life, I feel like, of athletes and their agents really well. Unfortunately couldn't find a place on the list, but I could totally see it being like a 10 or a 9 on my list on, if I was feeling a different way. American Vandal is another one I left off.
I haven't seen that.
Great show. The first season is great, but the reason I left it off the list is because it just tanks after season 1. Season 2 is, in my opinion, is really bad. Borderline.
There was a Saratoga alum that was on American Vandal.
What's their name?
I don't remember. I remember Miss Herdman telling me about it though. I think he was an actor in it.
That's cool. I should definitely check that out. But I feel like Tatro also carries the show season 1, and he just makes it exponentially better. Shout out Jimmy Tatro. And then Morning Show, which I actually watched like a month ago. Fantastic show. I mean, star-studded cast, obviously, is I think what it's known for. And
that's Apple TV, right?
Yeah, Apple TV. So it's
Ted Lasso is also Apple TV.
Okay. Yeah. I've not watched Ted Lasso. I should check it out.
You would love Ted Lasso.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I got to check it out for sure.
Yeah.
And then the last one I left off my honorable mentions, or a couple more I left off my honorable mentions. One is Felicity, which is like a very late 90s, early 2000s show that's like about a girl moving to a different state after high school to like chase her high school crush or whatever. It's like the plot sounds disgusting, I know, but the show is super well written and it's about college, and it was a lot of fun to watch.
Heartwarming.
Yeah, very heartwarming, very nice. And then the last show I couldn't find a place on the list where I was looking for was Downton Abbey. I was looking all over my list. I was like, where can I get Downton in here? But like I couldn't. Downton Abbey was like my guilty pleasure show in high school. Like when my parents would leave the house, like I'd secretly, record it on the DVR and then just like watch it without them looking. I was like, I can't.
I hear Downton Abbey's a great show though. So
yeah, it is fantastic. It was so worth it. But I just had to watch it in secret because I didn't need anyone knowing that I liked British Masterpiece on PBS. So, but it's a fantastic show. Would highly recommend. Don't watch it in secret. It's totally worth, everyone seeing because it's just a great show. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So should I get into number 10 show?
Get into it. Go for it.
So my number 10 is a HBO comedy, and I guess it was like kind of tied almost with Insecure, but I had to edge it over. And it's Curb Your Enthusiasm, starring Larry David. And I think a lot of the show these days are like very improvised, like they have the story, but it's basically just about this dude and essentially what's his pet peeves about life and the world. And I mean, it's like when you describe it like that, because there's not really much he does, he's kind of just going through his daily life in every episode and picking and just showcasing his very much disdain for other people, but it's in a very funny way, very clever way. And Larry David's the guy who did Seinfeld. So there's some Seinfeld. I've never watched Seinfeld, but there's some Seinfeld tie-ins and stuff, and it's just really, really fun. And there's random celebrity guest appearances. And he just has a great chemistry with his cast. And I mean, it's just one of those shows that you can watch at any time and it'll just make you feel better.
For sure. For sure. I mean, I've heard things about Curb Your Enthusiasm. I never personally have watched it. But I've heard like a lot of great things about just like the way it's, you know, made and just like the improv structure of it, very low key kind of, it feels very low stakes, but it's funny because it's relatable.
Yeah.
So, and obviously Seinfeld is kind of that same way where it's like, it's just people living their lives and just crazy shit happens, that they're just talking about. So yeah, definitely.
There's
That's
10
like
seasons of Curb Your Enthusiasm too.
for sure. I think there's 10 of Seinfeld, I believe. I don't really know. But Seinfeld isn't on my list, which is crazy. I thought it would be, but yeah. You want me to get into my number 10?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So I technically have 11 shows on my top 10. I tied at number 10. I couldn't decide. I was like, I had like a 5-way tie originally, but I took out a few shows because after further deliberation. But my number 10, I'll talk about the first one first. It's actually a foreign language TV show. I've been trying to get Isaiah to watch it. It's called Made in Heaven. And it's a show. It's like a foreign show. It's basically it's set in India. It's an Amazon Prime original. And basically like it's a foreign show that talks about like Indian weddings and like the different like, and it basically uses every episode as like a different wedding. And it's about these two wedding planners that plan different sorts of weddings for different like classes of people, different religions, because India is obviously a very like ethnically religious diverse place. And so like it talks about a lot of these like different issues that take place. And obviously like weddings kind of amplify those issues because in India, weddings are a huge cultural milestone in someone's life. And so it kind of
weddings
uses
go hard, I hear.
Yeah, they do. But yeah, the weddings are kind of like a milestone in someone's life. And the show uses weddings to really amplify the problems that are going on in India. So they talk a little bit about sexual harassment. They talk a little bit about like religious, like interreligious tensions between like Hindu and Muslims, and then like, you know, like an old person like marrying like a younger woman, right? Like different things like that. Just like weird marriage combinations that you wouldn't see, like a rich guy marrying like a working class girl, like stuff like that that's considered to be like quote unquote taboo in India. And all of that stuff, like, or like even there's, yeah.
It's Zoya Akhtar, right?
Yeah,
Akhtar.
Zoya Akhtar is the director of the show.
Okay.
And she's kind of known for
Gully Boy, right?
Yeah, she did Gully Boy. She did another one of your favorite movies, Dil Dhadakne Do, with your girl Priyanka.
And she did Zindagi. I don't know how to say it.
Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. Yeah, she did that too.
I also saw that one.
It's great movies. But she's kind of known for more of this, like, you know, commentating on like socially conscious material. And she does it through like various different mediums. And like, I feel like she's really good at like telling stories, but like not getting too heavy, but like kind of drawing a fine line between heavy and also like enjoyment. But yeah, the show's super good. It's all in Hindi, so it kind of definitely like knocks it down the list a little bit for me because it's like hard to understand the intricacies of the language because it's all in subtitles. But it's a great show. Even though, you know, Zoya Akhtar did say like all lives matter, but like, you know, I choose to ignore that, pretend that didn't happen. But the show's totally worth the watch. Yeah. And then the show that's tied for it, for number 10 with Made in Heaven is one of your favorites. I'm not one of your favorites, but I know you like this show. I think it's an A24 show. It's on Hulu. It's Rami. I love Rami.
So it's not one of my favorites. One of my dad's favorites.
Okay, there you go.
So I haven't actually seen it, but my dad has told me endlessly to watch it.
You need to. It's fantastic, dude. Rami is like the show that I wish Indian people had. Like it's kind of just like one of those shows where it just talks about an Egyptian American family, very like middle class, just normal family, and all of like the different just stupid things that go on in their lives. Like Rami's the main character, and he's kind of just this like insecure like kid in his mid-20s who's living with his parents, like trying to figure out like what his life is going to be. and kind of like balancing all of these like various expectations, you know, like immigrant parents and faith and getting a job and all of these different things. And he's got this like he's got this disabled friend, physically disabled friend named Steve. And I feel like the actor for Steve is just like, it's something you don't see on TV that often, with like someone who's physically disabled playing like a best friend role, or playing someone who is, you know, like a pretty
Like a
big
prominent
character. And he's actually disabled, which is the coolest part. It's like great representation for that community in Hollywood. And I don't know exactly what disorder he has, but apparently Rami and him are like best friends in real life. Like they went to high school together. Like I've watched interviews. So and the show is just really well written too. It's like non-linear storytelling in a lot of it.
Oh,
So it's like it
I'm
kind of,
watching a show like that right now, actually.
yeah, it kind of just jumps from like story to story. So it'll be like, oh, like let's talk about Rami for a little bit. Okay, let's go to his mom Mesa, and then like, oh, let's talk about Dina, his sister. And so they like kind of go to like different parts of the family, but it all somehow like connects in his life at the end. Season 1 was super strong. I know people were shocked when Rami Youssef like pulled off the Golden Globe. This was like 2 years ago, I think. And then season 2 was kind of a little bit for me, but like Mahershala Ali is in it, and he kills it.
God.
He kills it in that second season. Definitely deserves some Emmys and Golden Globes. I mean, I've had friends who've watched Mahershala on that show, and they've been like, dude, this guy like earned all the awards for this performance. So if you like personally aren't into like Rami Youssef or whatever, like watch it for Mahershala Ali in season 2. It's fantastic. Would highly recommend this show. Yeah.
I definitely want to check it out. I mean, I love A24. I mean, who doesn't? But especially if you're a film kid.
Yeah, for sure.
So my number 9, it's a British show. So like Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
Very different Downton Abbey. It's called Top Boy.
Oh,
and I don't know if you've seen it.
I've heard of it.
That there's kind of like 2 versions of the show. There's the original, which was like 4 episodes, or I think it was 8 episodes, and it was made in like 2007 or something. Those are great. But then the show got canceled, and then 2 years ago, Netflix brought it back for another 10 episode season, and then they're gonna make like a season 4 or season 2, and that was also just as great. So there's like the first one, and then like 10 years into the future, because it's all about like British gangsters, and like South London. And so I don't know if you've listened to grime at all, but there's one of the original grime rappers named Kano. He's in the show. And so basically it kind of, if you've ever listened to grime or know that world, it's kind of like a show set in that world, all around British crime, British drug dealing. There's like in the second season, there's a big gang war, but not like super outlandish. It's super, super strong, really subtle. And like really like it's a concise story. Like each season's like a concise story. Like British shows usually aren't that long.
For sure.
At least the seasons. And so it's super cool. It's stylistic and everything.
Would you say like that? Because I've noticed this in like British TV shows versus American TV shows. Would you notice like the humor is a little different? Like, because like I feel like in American shows it's like very out there, like you're supposed to laugh, but like in British TV shows it's like it's much smarter, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
So there is definitely some humor in the show, and it's definitely when it appears, it's definitely like that. It's a really serious show though,
for sure,
in terms of like the content. But
That's,
some of the dialogue's fun, and like when they aren't fighting. That's
cool. Yeah, my brother actually told me to check it out. He got into it recently, and I think he finished it.
There was this whole phase where I got into grime music and then was watching the show at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wish I had a British accent.
Yeah.
I wish I would say bruv in it. Like
he was telling me like the lingo's sick. Like
yeah. Oh yeah. That was the hardest part when I first started watching it. Because I watched the first episode when it first came out.
Yeah.
And then I didn't watch the rest for a while. And then when I rewatched it, like the lingo, once you start picking up on it, it's way easier to follow. And also like it might help to have subtitles with it, just because sometimes some of the characters' accents can mask the actual words.
For sure.
At least for American viewers. So.
No, definitely. Like I feel like sometimes like British accents can get really thick. Like there's this TV show I watch that was actually in my honorable mentions, my long list. It's called Dairy Girls. And like they speak in like Irish accents, and like it's just sometimes it's really hard to understand without the subtitles because their accents are just very thick. It's hard. Yeah.
My dad loves the Dairy Girls as well.
Dairy Girls, dude, me and your dad get along. This is great.
Yeah, maybe.
Dairy Girls is a fantastic show. They're coming out with season 3. I'm so excited for that to come out. But yeah, and
Gotcha.
I had a lot of British TV shows in like my honorable mentions. I had Sex Education in there too.
Have you seen the In-Betweeners?
I have not. No.
Okay, you should probably check that out. I feel like I liked it. I didn't love it, but my dad loves it, and I feel like you'd like it.
I'll definitely check that out for sure. Most shows I'm down to check out. So it's on Netflix, right?
I think so.
I feel like I've seen it on it. My number 9 is actually a Netflix show. Great transition. And it's about, and this is one of Isaiah's shows. This is like me and him used to talk about the show all the time in high school. On My Block at number 9.
Yes.
And I cannot stress to anyone that's watching this how many good things I have to say about this show. It's very like Goonies-esque. I think that's how you described it in high school. I think that's a really good way to describe the show. And it's Goonies-esque, but it's about kids from like the hood, from like a tough neighborhood. And I feel like in a lot of shows, when they talk about like the hood, when they talk about tough neighborhoods, it either A, like glorifies hood life, or B, like just makes it seem like, you know, they portray these very violent images. And I feel like On My Block does this really good job of like showing what it's like to live in the hood, but also like showing like what it's like to grow up in that environment and like the psychology behind some of these characters. Cause like, I mean, you can speak on it too. Like a lot of the characters in this show are very deep. Like that's what I like about it. And it's like they're one person on the surface, but like if you like dig more and more into like who they are and their experiences that they've lived in life, like they just become so much deeper individuals. And the show is essentially like, I feel like every season
they're layered for sure.
Yeah. Every season, it's kind of like a sort of like a mystery. Every season's got their own, like its own little mystery. You know what I mean? Like the first season was like the Roller World mystery. The second season was like, oh, like, what are we going to do with the Roller World money? And then the third season was like finding little Ricky, and all of these things. So like every season I feel like has its own kind of mystery and its own plot, if that makes any sense. So it's like, it's almost like a movie per season, but it's sticking with the same people. And
for sure.
The writing on the show, I can't even like there's so many little subtle lines in the show that like I went back and watched it recently, and there's so many little subtle lines in the show that like different characters say that are just hilarious. They make me laugh so hard. And it's just like the way that they're able to comment on like gang life and hood life and society is fantastic. And it does like a really good job through a humorous kind of lens of commenting on really serious issues. That's kind of what I have to say about that.
Dude, I hate to, because I forgot about On My Block.
Yeah.
I feel like it definitely could have slipped into that 10 spot, like with Curb Your Enthusiasm and stuff. Because like the vibe is just, it's like it's very Goonies. It's very like coming of age, very funny, and the cast is all great. The soundtrack's all great.
Yeah.
Also, if you like On My Block, there's a show called Hentified.
Oh, I've heard of Hentified.
It's also really good.
Okay.
I thought about it, but they've only had like one season, and I kind of want them to have more to see how it develops.
I feel like On My Block right now is at like the perfect point because you've had 3 seasons. You have a pretty good body of work. And I would say like On My Block would be a little higher on this list, but season 1 and season 2 are so strong. And season 3 really dips, I think, a little bit.
Season 3 kind of faltered. But I think where they set up the show at the end of season 3,
it could go.
It's going to be a strong close.
Yeah. And they're actually season 4 has been confirmed to be the last season of the show. Yeah. So unfortunately, as much as I would have loved to see more, but like I feel like it's coming to a close. The story itself like feels very about to end. Like there's just a little bit left.
It's good that they know where they want to finish the show. It's not like they're just keeping it going just to keep it going.
For sure. Because there's plenty of shows that do that and didn't make my list because they do drag to an extent.
Shout out Lost.
Lost.
Yeah, that was the first show I've ever binged.
Oh, you binge Lost. Okay.
Like in 6th grade, I discovered Netflix and was like, "What is this Lost thing?" Watched like 7 of the 9 seasons. I was like, "Okay,
Mhm.
I'm over this. I'm so done."
Yeah, the first 3 seasons of Lost are some of the strongest TV I've ever seen. Like,
Right?
I'll give it that. Yeah, like
I
it's
can mention Lost a little bit later, but my
yeah.
number 8 is Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
I've heard good
So
things. I've heard good things.
this show is so heartwarming and so fun and so just like feel good. Um, but there's a lot of like cool things that they tackle. Like obviously, I don't know if it's obvious, but a lot of feminist issues. I mean, it's set in the 50s New York, and a woman trying to enter the stand-up comedy world in the 50s and what that kind of entails. Because it's still like a male run subgroup, if you will. But at
Hmm.
the time, like they talk about like women who want to get into stand-up, like you have to have a character and like stick to that character. When Mrs. Maisel kind of just wants to be herself, and not some sort of gimmick. And then they tackle a lot of good, cool things, but just the dialogue's all great. It's so fun. It's heartwarming. Like I said, they have a great portrayal of Lenny Bruce, who's like an actual old comedian. And his like some of his words, like I've done research on him since watching Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, kind of just like impact me as well. He's a great character, and the acting's phenomenal. It's just the chemistry of like the parents and Mrs. Maisel. It's all great, and there's great character development as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I've heard so many good things about Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I've never gotten around to watching it, but like all my friends have told me, like this is a fantastic show. You're gonna love it. Like it's like very well written, super smart. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it's super well written. It like cleaned out the Emmys a couple of years ago.
I heard about it. Like its debut season apparently was so good. Like it was fantastic. I don't know if it's
The first
faltered
season's
though.
great.
I don't know if it's
No, so it like kept it going. Like the first season, honestly, when I was watching it, like in the middle, it was like a little slow for me. But it as soon as like I was fully invested and it picked up, like it didn't stop.
yeah.
Like I was always watching it.
Yeah. I feel like there's so many shows, dude, which like have such a strong season 1 and then just like fall completely and just like spiral.
Yeah.
Um
Well, that's because some shows don't like know what to do. Like they have their idea for season 1, and then
right.
they don't know what to do for season 2.
Or like they don't expect like they're going to get picked up or they're like, "Oh, like fuck
Yeah.
it, we'll just throw out something for season 1." People really
Yeah.
like it and they're like, "Oh shit, what do we do for season 2?"
Or like you just have like the premise for like the first part. Like not to shit on The Good Place, but I really liked the season 1 of The Good Place, and then
Yeah.
I did not like anything after that.
Okay, interesting. You're
Yeah.
you're gonna like my next pick.
Oh.
At number 8, we have The Good Place.
Oh my god.
Okay. Here's what I'll say about The Good Place. For me, The Good Place, it could go. It's pretty interchangeable on my list. I honestly almost put On My Block a little above it at 8. I think those two are interchangeable. But The Good Place to me, I love the way that they tackle death. I've never seen a TV show just do like really do such like a good job with like tackling death. And like I feel like it's such a unique concept, you know, like I feel that's almost been like untapped in a lot of ways, like this whole idea of heaven and like what is it like after life, you know. And so it's super good in that way, and I love the premise. Like the first, I would say, yeah, like I agree with you, the first 9, like the first season of The Good Place is so strong. It's fantastic writing, just fantastic premise, everything. It does have a little bit of like a lackadaisical thing in my opinion, where like season 2 kind of like kind of goes like off the rails a little bit with like the coming back to earth and like all of these different things. And then like season 3 had its highs and lows in my opinion, but the reason why I feel like I rank The Good Place so high is because it starts well and it ends well in my opinion. So like I feel like season 4 to me was like such like the finale episode of The Good Place is probably like I think one of the finales that was actually done really well. Just like the way that they talk about like actually leaving the good place and like the whole idea of the good place being so good that it sucks. And like, you know, like that whole idea of like finally getting to the goal and then like realizing like, holy shit, like this isn't like what we expected. And I loved that finale episode, and I just love the 4th season in general. I thought the last season was great and the first season was great, but I do agree with you. In the middle, it does go a lot of different directions and kind of gets
It kind
whacked
of
for a
like
second. Like,
Yeah, it kind of meanders or like panders. Like I don't know.
hmm
It felt I never watched season 4, so maybe I should. But
Season 4 is really strong, in my opinion.
so yeah, but the middle part, like I lost interest in season 3. Like
For
it's
sure.
just-
Yeah, it takes a little bit to like really just like, okay, like I got to get through this, but it was totally worth it because I watched season 4 and I thought, wow, like it just the pandering and the meandering was all worth it for this build up. And I know I'm like building it up a lot, but I just really like the ending.
Damn. Now I need to watch the ending.
I'm also like a huge Kristen Bell fan. I love
He's
like,
so likable.
she's so awesome.
I really like her too.
Yeah, I love her and Dak Shepard both. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
Dak Shepard also has a podcast called Armchair Expert. If you haven't checked it out, super fun.
I have not.
Definitely worth it. But yeah, The Good Place is my number 8. So if you want to get started with number 7.
Okay. So we've talked about shows that kind of like falter a little bit.
Yeah.
And this might be considered one of them, but it's Community. I don't know if you've seen Community.
I have.
But the first 3 seasons. So I was watching Community. There's maybe a little bit of a nostalgia factor here because I was watching Community when it was first coming out for like the first 3 seasons,
Right.
which I was probably in like 3rd grade.
Yeah.
But the first 3 seasons are so creative. It's like so unique and so just different. And the whole cast is phenomenal that it's kind of hard for me not to recognize it. And then I don't think like season 4 wasn't great. Season 5 was all right. And then season 6, the Yahoo season was also kind of fun. Like there's fun moments throughout the latter half of the show. So I think, but the first 3 seasons are just so good. Like the D&D episode,
love that episode.
Paintball episode.
Oh,
the paintball episode. Yeah.
Great episode.
The Goodfellas episode. There's just so many like moments in that show that are hilarious.
No,
so
for
I
sure.
couldn't not leave it off.
Also, like Community, like if you don't like realize it, like it did spawn a little bit of meme culture. Like honestly, yeah.
Don't
like,
stop. La biblioteca.
Right.
Yeah.
Just so many things. Like, and I think Chevy Chase is hilarious. I'm a big Chevy Chase fan. And that show, like Pierce, I feel like in 2021,
great in the show.
Pierce in 2021 would be canceled for sure.
Oh, he'd get crucified.
But he's hilarious, dude. He's so funny. And in season 1 in particular, I think Chevy Chase is the star.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've been compared.
Yeah.
I've been compared to Jeff Winger a lot.
Apparently. I see it.
So like at my workplace, we were all watching Community like a lot at the same time. And then we were like, oh, so who would be who in the show? And like 4 people were like, oh, you're Jeff Winger. No doubt. I don't know why, but yeah.
I could see it. Yeah.
I think it's just the snarkiness.
For sure. And like the sarcasm and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Community was not on my list. I have like watched bits and pieces of it. I do like the first 2 seasons. I did enjoy them. But the thing is, like, I couldn't get over like the season 4 through 6 lull. It just really falters in my opinion.
The quality drops for sure.
Yeah. But I feel like you were saying, like, if you could take it for like what it is and just like enjoy it for like, you know, like, okay, like maybe it's going to take a step back and like come back and expect that. Like, I feel like maybe it'll be a little bit better.
Yeah. If you know that it drops off after season 3 a little bit, because like the showrunner changes for season 4.
Right. That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it comes back, but then Donald Glover leaves. So there's some things to work around, but there's still a lot of really fun moments that I really like.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say seasons 4, 5, and 6 are bad at all. Like I'd say they're all like, I'd say they're very average to good.
Yeah.
But the first 3 seasons are great.
I think like what I like about Community is like the meta-ness of it. Like it's just so meta. It's super fun. Like in terms of just like there's so many little references to this and that, and like the character of Abed is so fascinating to me. Like it's great.
It's one of the most creative things I've ever seen on television.
For sure. And I feel like I wonder like why that hasn't been replicated, because it was really successful.
I mean, it's hard to get that many people on the same page.
That's true.
All together, like because Community notoriously like went over budget, went over time,
right?
And like, but everyone was like on board. So,
and I mean, you had also
and the cast, like
the cast is fantastic. That's what I was gonna say. Like you have like Jillian Jacobs, who's fantastic. Joel McHale, who hasn't.
I love her.
Yeah, she's in Love too, which is another one of our favorite TV shows, in my opinion. I really like Love.
Yeah.
And she does a great job in that show.
I love Love
Who else? Freaking Donald Glover, of course.
Ken Jeong.
Fantastic. Ken Jeong, great. John Oliver, fantastic. Like you have so many names in that show.
Alison Brie.
Yeah, Alison Brie is so underrated in that show. And just in general, I think she's one of the more underrated.
She's underrated in general.
Yeah. Has she been in anything like big since Community?
She's in this show called Glow I really liked. It was a Netflix show about female wrestling in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that show. But that's because I was also a big wrestling kid, like as a kid.
That's interesting. I should go check that one out. But yeah,
it got canceled, but
yeah. Oh, it got canceled?
It got canceled. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I'll move on to like my number 7. We've been talking a lot about shows that don't have like a body of work to judge, and this could definitely be considered one of those shows. But I just really enjoyed what I've seen so far, and I'm excited to see more. And my number 7 is Euphoria. And
I knew it.
You knew it? I'm a big Euphoria.
As soon as you started talking about having one season, I was like, oh, it's Euphoria.
Euphoria single-handedly like has to be one of my favorite just one season, like first season shows that I've seen in a long time. Like it's one of those shows that like you have to be in like a good mind state, you know what I mean, to like really like watch the show, because it's so like graphic at times and it's so crazy and like all of this stuff. Like I would not watch Euphoria in the middle of the night. I did watch a couple episodes in the middle of the night and I got scared. Like I had really bad dreams that night. Like it's one of those
all of them.
It's one of those shows that'll really just mentally fuck you if you're not in the right place. So like you have to like really be in the right place. You have to like watch the show and like know that it was almost one of those shows that's like very hard to distinct from reality because it feels so real when you're in that moment and when you're watching the visuals, because the visuals are beautiful. The script is wonderful. I mean, Zendaya, I cannot say enough good things about Zendaya and Euphoria. She is so good. Hunter Schafer.
All the performances are insane.
Yeah, Hunter Schafer, who plays Jules, fantastic. Maud Apatow, shout out. She's a G. She's so good in like the fucking 2 scenes she has in the show. But I still love her. And just the performances, the writing, just every single element of the show, produced by Aubrey Drake Graham. It's just it's a fantastic show. And the 1A kind of season with like Jules and Rue, I really liked what they did. I feel like it just made everything kind of seem more real and like really put things into perspective. And it's one of those shows you have to watch multiple times to really understand what's going on, in my opinion. But yeah, Euphoria at 7.
Yeah. Before we move on, there's a hint to my number 1 show in Euphoria. There's a reference.
Oh.
So
let me see. I'll try and think about it. But what are your thoughts on Euphoria?
Yeah. I love Euphoria. I think, like you said, stylistically, it's insane. The visuals are all like, it makes you feel like you're on a trip.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the performances are all great. Like even outside of the main people, Alexa Demi is great.
Alexa Demi is fantastic.
Sweeney.
Yeah.
I can't remember that one dude's name, the really scary guy, but yeah, him.
Who,
too.
Nate? Like the football player?
Yeah. Oh, and the drug dealer is great too. I love him.
Fez, yeah. Fez. I don't know his name, but he did a really good job.
It's Angus something. I know that.
I remember that, yeah.
He's also hilarious in real life. Like,
really?
I've seen, like clips of him, and he's like, he's super funny.
I'll have to check him out. Yeah.
Yeah, Euphoria is a crazy show. It's done stuff that like we haven't really seen. I mean, okay, we've seen people interpret like drug trips, but I think like on the youth level, I mean, there's so many stories of stuff like that. Not necessarily to the same degree of like drama, but like we know people who have gone to rehab, gone through like drama and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a great show. It's
a fantastic just like commentary on like, well, because it takes place in Florida too, which is like kind of the height of like the opioid crisis. And so it does like a really good job with that whole thing and the whole crisis and everything. and just commentating on like teens and like how this shit is real and like how people really just like try to like one up. And like that's the part I really liked, was like the way they show Zendaya just like try to like test her luck a little bit more, like go for this drug and like go for this and like really try to like cross the line, and then like, you know, showing what that's like. I feel like that was super fun to watch. Yeah.
Of course it's set in Florida.
That's true. But like, I also feel like Zendaya just does such a, like, the way she takes on that character is just incredible. Cause like I've seen Zendaya, like I was a huge Zendaya fan on like when she was like doing Shake It Up and shit. And like, that's completely the opposite of like what she's doing now. Like you see, like, I mean, you really get to see the full scope of her career.
I think when you think about Zendaya, like everyone still thinks of her as a kid, but she's like 23 or something like that.
Yeah.
I just watched Malcolm and Marie, and she's a full adult now. So.
I've heard she's really good in that show too, or in that movie. Sorry.
She's great in the movie. The movie, I'll get into the movie's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But she's really good in it.
Okay, for sure. I'll definitely check that movie out for sure. It's on Netflix, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, you want to get into your number 6?
My number 6. I don't know if you've heard of this show. You might have seen it on Netflix, but it's a show called Kingdom. And the thing with this show was that it was an Xfinity show, or like no, it was a Comcast show.
Okay.
Or like Comcast is Xfinity. So yeah, it was an Xfinity show. And Xfinity is not like a streaming service, so no one knew this show existed. But I'm telling you, it's great. And it's basically about MMA, like local MMA in LA. It's set in Venice, Los Angeles, and it has, if you know Frank Grillo, he runs an MMA gym, and basically it's about his like estranged family of fighters and like drug addicts, and how they either like rely on drugs to cope with the fighting lifestyle that they live, or use fighting as a way to cope with like the shit that they got to deal with outside of the cage. And there's like a lot of different themes that they tackle, whether it's like masculinity, like drug addiction, the pressures of like your family. And it's got, the acting in this show is some of the best like I've ever seen. And it's crazy because no one knows the show exists.
Well, you heard it here, guys. This is the show that is going to blow up because of Isaiah Vivero found it. So don't sleep.
That Nick Jonas plays in Frank Grillo. Do you watch Friday Night Lights?
Yes, I do.
There is I don't remember the character's name, but there's a character from Friday Night Lights who plays the main character of the show.
Okay.
And then there's this guy named Jonathan Tucker who plays like one of the craziest characters on the show, and it's Emmy level acting. When I say like he's insane, and this entire show is overlooked, and it's one of my favorites ever. And it also has a soft spot because I'm a huge MMA fan. Like I used to train in MMA. I watch MMA, and just the stories that came with it. Like this show on a different day could be higher on my list. So.
No, for sure. That's interesting. Kingdom. Haven't checked that out. Definitely. I mean, Isaiah's plugging it, so y'all got to check it out. I mean, we're about to find the next big thing. So Xfinity, damn.
It's crazy.
I don't know how you found it. Were you just like scrolling through Netflix one day? You're like,
no,
oh,
so
this
it's on
interesting.
Netflix now. It's on Netflix now.
Okay.
So
is it like a
Netflix
original? Like technically now? Like it's under Netflix?
No, I think it's just like a show that was put on Netflix. Want them like Netflix is missing out if they don't bring this back, because even though it was canceled, the way season 3 ended left a lot open. But it was like at least some sort of a satisfying fit. Like I cried watching this MMA show one of the last episodes, because it like the acting's insane. There's some family drama stuff, but not necessarily like family drama, but like differences of opinions, differences of lifestyles, differences of like ideologies.
For sure. Yeah. That's awesome. That sounds great. I definitely want to check the show out for sure. I'm in the middle of watching Grey's Anatomy right now, so don't hate on me.
Are you on like season 7 of 29?
No, I'm on season 1. I actually really you know what? So I came into Grey's. We're gonna go on a little tangent about Grey's. I came into Grey's with. I started like 4 days ago. So I came into Grey's with such little expectations, right? No expectations at all. I was like, oh, this show's going to fucking suck. Like, this is what all the white girls watch. You know, It's not that bad. It's not that bad. I'm very
Isn't there
surprised.
like 20,000 episodes?
I haven't gotten to like the 20 million episodes, but season 1 so far has not been bad. I also think the main actress, Meredith Grey, for those of you who know the main character of Grey's Anatomy, I think she's like so attractive. So that definitely does help. But like McDreamy, like Dr. McDreamy, in my opinion, is just, he's not like that dreamy. But okay, I mean that's a conversation for another day. I think Scrubs is better than Grey's Anatomy. If you've watched Scrubs is
I don't like Scrubs. I
great.
haven't watched all of Scrubs, but I
Yeah.
don't. What I've seen, I wasn't the biggest fan of.
People say that like I'm like JD, and like I kind of see it. It's like one of the characters that really reminds me.
Okay, I don't know who that is. So
He's like the main character, and like the daydreaming face, like iconic. But I mean, Scrubs is
Gotcha.
really good, and also Dr. Cox is an iconic character, in my opinion. But
gotcha.
number 6, this is a show that is so popular. One of my personal favorites, even though I do like to shit on it a little bit. But it is decently high on my list for a reason. I really enjoy the show. This is probably a show Isaiah will hate, is this high. And that's, kids, that's How I Met Your Mother. So number 6, How I Met Your Mother. So let me get into it. And Isaiah's laughing. How I Met Your Mother to me is one of those shows that just feels very like homey to me. It feels like it's nice to just watch when you have nothing better to do, and it's semi like interesting because it's got this throughout the whole show, right? It's a sitcom, it's your classic sitcom, but throughout the whole show you have this question. It's like, who the fuck is the mom? Like, you need to figure this out. And it's like you watch and watch and watch, and it's a lot of buildup. And I get it, the finale sucks. I still shit on it, and that's why it's not higher on this list. But the episodes in between, the pineapple incident is one of my favorite episodes of all time in that show. The Girls versus Suits with the musical number with Barney. I mean, and just like, there's so many episodes that have like tremendous just writing and just jokes and are just a lot of fun, in my opinion, to watch. And like just consume that material. It's just, to me, that it's a lot of fun to watch. You kind of see the characters grow a little bit. I get it. Like, I get why people would laugh that it's this high. It's not necessarily like cinema's greatest show of all time, but in my opinion, like the character of Ted Mosby is super fun. He's very like simpy, I guess is what we would call him in this day and age. But but it's like, I feel like the characters are very relatable, and it's just fun. Like, that's why I have it at number 6, really because of enjoyment and a lot of good memories watching it.
I can respect that. I've never enjoyed this show. I always found it kind of annoying.
Explain
But
why.
do you think I don't know. I just the way they talked, it felt, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it besides saying like it felt super white, if that makes sense.
I get
But
it.
I get in trouble whenever I say that.
No, like I totally get that.
People always
My top 2
people
shows.
always are like, "Oh, why are you making it a race thing?"
Yeah, my
I'm like,
top
what
2
the-
shows are like the whitest shows of all time. So you'll understand. I understand, right? But
Okay.
yeah, actually no. I'd say my number 1 show is the whitest show of all time. But but like
I wonder if I know what it is. I feel like I'm thinking of the show, but I don't know if it is the show.
If you know me really well, I think you know what it is. Like, it's definitely what you're thinking. But
Okay.
How I Met Your Mother to me is like, it was one of those shows that was made at an era where a lot of like classic TV that we consider classic was just starting, right? And like my next show is actually like started the same year as How I Met Your Mother, but like it's in that kind of 2005 to 2014 era where there was a lot going on, and it kind of started and it was kind of like the constant going through that whole era of like great TV.
Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, Big Bang Theory was 06 or 07, I thought, but I don't know. You could be right.
I don't know exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, they're all kind of in that same era, and I feel like How I Met Your Mother will kind of still go down culturally as well as like one of the biggest TV shows that I think we've seen in a while. Yeah,
That's definitely a fair assumption.
yeah. I mean,
So
like, yeah, for sure. Go.
my number 5.
Okay, we're getting into the elites now.
In terms of cultural impact,
Yeah.
This one, if we're talking quality of show,
Okay.
I don't know how high I could say it is,
It's gonna be like
but
90
it's
Day
definitely one
Fiance
of the
or some
shows.
shit.
No, it's definitely one of the shows that I've watched. Okay, there are so many great moments, especially in the first 3 seasons. I am talking about Glee, and Glee is
Okay.
one of my favorite shows. Of like, I'm not saying it's one of the best shows of all time. I'm saying it's
Fair.
one of my favorite shows. And I'm a
Cultural
sucker for
cultural
musicals.
context too.
So when there's
Great.
there's a ton of like different like diversity things, so many different topics that it tackles. Even like the Finn episode is like masterful. There's tears. If you know what I'm talking about.
I think a little bit.
It's kind of hard revisiting the show a little bit recently, because been like some reason, I don't want to say the cast has been cursed, but there has been a lot of tragedy surrounding some
Yeah.
members of the cast, and it makes it kind of hard. Like it makes me sad watching it sometimes. Like the whole Naya Rivera thing. I went back and watched an episode, and I was like heartbroken. But the show is so fun. If you like musicals, if you like soapy team dramas, love triangles, like I don't know if like you're 20 and you're watching Glee for the first time, but
Mhm.
when I was 14 and I was watching Glee for the first time, it hit different, bro.
That was
It
all
hit
you freshman
different.
year of high school. That's all you talked about. Glee, Glee, Glee.
It's so good. It was so fun.
Yeah.
Like watching that show for the first time. It's like similar, I guess. How I Met Your Mother. It felt very homey. Felt
Right.
very comforting. It's like
Mhm.
comfort food.
Yeah.
I revisit it all the time.
Yeah. I'm not gonna fault you for putting Glee that high. I think that's cool. Like I mean, I've heard good things about it. My brother was watching Glee in secret. Like, like I'm pretty sure like it's a good show. Like I have no issue with it. And like I've watched the first season I actually really enjoyed the first season. I thought they had some really solid moments in there. But I never really got to like finishing the rest of it. I've heard it does kind of falter a little bit.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
once the main cast graduates, it kind of falters. The last 2 episodes of season 3 though are like 2 of my favorite episodes of TV like across the board.
For sure.
I've rewatched those, I think like probably like 10 times each, which is crazy to
Interesting.
think
I d-
about how
I definitely gotta check it out again. Because I come in with an open mind to every show. Like I will watch Grey's Anatomy. I will watch Love Island. I will watch anything. So I definitely will check it out. I know it's all on Netflix, right?
yeah.
Okay.
I think it kills on Netflix because everyone like who gets into it kind of just rewatches it,
Yeah.
or puts it
Okay.
on in the background.
Definitely gonna put on some Glee later. Definitely gonna try
Go
and
for
watch it. Yeah, but I don't fault you for having Glee that high, considering
Appreciate
I had a show like How I Met Your Mother at 6. But you're gonna hate my number 1. I'm telling you. Number 5. This show. I have a lot of good things to say about this show, but I know it has taken a lot of criticism, particularly in the era that we live in today. This is a show that came out, you have to keep in mind, in 2005, ended in 2012. One of my favorite shows. It's an HBO show. It's about 4 guys trying to make it in Hollywood. We taking it to Entourage, baby. Number 5. My number 5 show of all time, in my opinion, is Entourage. And I can't say enough good things about Entourage. I understand the criticisms behind it, and like some of the things that the characters do say are like no-nos in 2021. But I really do enjoy the way, like the camaraderie between the 4. I think it's honest, it's very amicable, it's very likable. You like pretty much all the main characters in the show. Johnny Drama and Turtle are iconic for, they still get talked about today. Turtle will always go down as having one of the greatest glow-ups in Hollywood history. Jerry Ferrara, fantastic, super funny. Kevin Dillon, Adrian Grenier, he was in Devil Wears Prada too. And then Kevin Connolly. I don't know if you've heard of Kevin Connolly, but Kevin Connolly's awesome too.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, he like he's gone on and like directed a bunch of other projects, but like they actually have a podcast right now out called Victory, which is based on Johnny Drama's like Victory, where he does like between
It's
every episode.
It's like the original cast.
Right. So it's pretty much like I think it's Kevin Dillon and Kevin Connolly. And they do and Doug Ellen, who was the producer and director at the time. And they basically like talk about every episode of the show. And so I've been going back and listening to a little bit of Victory, the podcast. It's so much fun just hearing them talk about the show and like all the memories and all of that. And what's cool about the podcast is that they do address like a lot of the issues that people do talk about the show and like how it's aged badly and this, that, and the other. And they brought on, I don't know if you know her, but Emmanuel Churky, who is one of like the main female leads on the show, who was a main female lead for like 4 or 5 seasons. And they basically like, and she talked about just like the show and just like what like the conceptions are and how she never felt treated in any sort of horrible way, like, you know, other actors and actresses said. But I haven't gotten to the best character of all. And how could I mention Entourage without Ari Gold? I mean, come on. Ari Gold is, if you're talking about a rage monster on television, that man is the best rage monster I have ever seen. Jeremy Piven, I know, has taken a bunch of criticism through the Me Too movement, but he is so fantastic. He's so much fun to just watch get angry. And the celebrity cameos on Entourage are sick. It's super cool to like see like Tom Brady on your screen and Turtle being like, "You ain't shit. Eli beat you twice." Like it's super funny. And
that doesn't age well though.
Yeah, it doesn't age well. Poor Turtle. But like it's just, I mean, the way I describe it is it's Sex in the City for dudes. It's literally that's what Entourage is. It's Sex in the City for guys. The plot, you know, I get it. When it gets to like season 5, season 6, it gets repetitive. But the first 3 seasons of Entourage are superior, in my opinion. And I actually really like the last season too. I like the way they wrap it up. But I
haven't seen it.
The movie sucks. Do not watch the movie. It's so bad. The movie is one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my life.
Jesus Christ.
It's so bad. It's so awful. I do not know who wrote the movie. I think Doug Ellen wrote it. I love Doug Ellen and I love the first 3 seasons of the show, but the movie is so bad. Do not watch the movie.
That's so sad.
That's all I'll say. But because it'll spoil the taste in your mouth of like watching the show.
That makes sense.
And it's like, because I don't know if like there's been other TV shows that have done like a movie.
Community wants to do a movie.
Yeah,
that was their whole thing.
Like Psych did a movie, and my God, it was horrible. Like every show
that TV movie, or was it like an actual movie?
It was like a TV movie, but like they kind
of
yeah.
One of my favorite shows growing up was Burn Notice. And
I love Burn Notice. Love Burn Notice.
Yeah, shout out Burn Notice. And they did a movie, and honestly, it kind of hit when I was watching the show.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Fiona.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, for sure. I have a character written in one of my scripts named Fiona, now that I'm thinking about it.
There you go. Subconscious?
It might be. She's like a criminal, so.
Yeah. But yeah, number 5 is definitely Entourage, and for a variety of reasons. But if you're someone who doesn't have thick skin and doesn't appreciate is a little sensitive to 2005 language, do not watch Entourage. You will hate it. You will want to cancel the show. But if you are someone like me who loves like the fratty guy humor, who likes taking it over the line a little bit, Entourage is fine. Watch it. It's really good. And I think
I haven't seen it, but I don't know if I would like it, but yeah.
It's a mixed bag.
Probably.
It's a mixed bag because I've shown it to a lot of my friends, and there's some of my friends who worship Entourage. They like literally worship Johnny Drama and Turtle and Eric. But there are some of my friends who just think it's trash television and horrible. So, you know, it could be one or the other.
Maybe somewhere in the middle.
For sure. Right. That's why it's number 5. It's not the best. It's not the worst. So, yeah.
That makes sense.
Do you want to go number 4? We're getting into like, this is like the really like top tier shows right here, 1 through 4.
So number 4, I if you've known me, you know I watch this show a lot. It is a New Girl.
Hey! New Girl is I was waiting to hear it.
It's the last of like the comedies on my list. This show, as much as I've rewatched Glee, I've probably rewatched New Girl way more. Mm-hmm. And I mean, what is there to say besides just the fact that it's just friends? Like they're not friends like the show, but it's just like actual friends, and it just feels awesome. You feel like the more you watch it, the more you feel like you're in the friend group, like you're inside all the jokes.
Right.
Yeah, like it's just there's not a single season I think that falters.
Okay.
Except for maybe the last one, but that's because they're
That's
kind of
what I would
wrapping
say.
things
That's what I
up.
would say. Yeah.
But the finale itself still great, and
Hmm.
the chemistry between everyone is awesome, and everyone's relatable in their own ways.
Right.
And I think that's what made the show so complete. Is like
Yeah.
everyone, like you can relate to everyone in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about New Girl right now because it's literally my number 3. So it's
Oh,
like right there. Um, so I mean, I think it's one of the more relatable comedies that I've seen. Just every character, Schmidt, Nick, Jess, Coach, like Winston. I mean, I personally, I mean, I have a lot of friends that are like, ugh, Winston, like they just like get him off my screen. But like, I think he has his
I
own
love
charm.
Winston.
He has his own charm in his own little
Winston's one of
ways.
my favorite characters.
Yeah, Winnie the Bitch, bro.
Exactly.
He's dope for a reason. Nick Miller, I think, will honestly, like, as a character, just ages better and better by the day. I can't wait to see like 40 years from now our kids being like, dude, that's so funny, bro. Nick Miller, and like watch Nick Miller being relevant like 40 years from now.
Yeah, that I could. I
Yeah.
weirdly see that. I get compared
Yeah.
to all Nick a lot, but I get compared to all of them a lot in their own different ways.
No, I think Nick Miller, like Nick is probably one of my favorite characters on the show. I would say Schmitty is up there too.
Schmitty's great.
Schmitty's great. And it's just like you were saying, like you feel like you're their friend and you're just like with them on the adventures, like they're going on. It's like, dude, like I know Jess and like that was hella funny and like you know it's like you're talking the good times while drinking a couple beers with them, right? Like it's literally just like you're there. And I have to say I think it does falter a little bit in the final season, in my opinion. Like it does go kind of up and down because I feel like, but I actually heard a very interesting story that does change my perspective on the final season was they actually wanted to cancel New Girl after season 6. And and I heard this on Jake Johnson did an interview and he was like, me and Zoe Deschanel had to write this long 5-page letter to tell them to extend us for one more season because he was like, because Fox thought basically they were like, dude, we're not getting any numbers because no one's watching on Fox, you know what I mean, on Thursday nights or whatever. But Jake Johnson was like, dude, your audience doesn't come from Fox, it's from Netflix. You're getting 13, 14, 18-year-olds just watching this show over and over again, and we have such a massive audience on Netflix, they need another season. And he basically presented that argument. Fox said okay, and they greenlit like an 8-episode 7th season, but they basically got fired from the show. They wanted more. And I could see them. I could see it because it felt like season 6 was kind of just getting started a little bit. And they could have gone on for like a season 9 or a season 10. I could see it, you know?
Yeah.
But
I think there's a world where, well, because season 6, they had just set up the Jess Nick thing again.
Yeah.
I would have liked, I mean, I feel like that aspect of the show could have gotten repetitive, but because we'd seen it in prior seasons. But yeah, I mean, I just wish there was more. It's like so good. It's like,
no, it's great. I would have loved to see a little bit more of like Jess and Nick, like now that they're older and mature and like have gone through all of these things. And I would have liked to see Schmidt in married life. You know what I mean? Like we got to see a little bit of it at the end of season 6, but like a little more. And like, you know, I think there was just so much more growth that they could have done instead of like just jumping time in the 7th season. But
definitely a lot of untapped potential still.
And I think I haven't heard it officially, but I think I'm hearing things and rumblings of a potential reunion and a potential comeback. So
I did hear about that actually.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. I'm hoping. I think the comeback will be fire. I would love to just see all those characters when they came back for election day. I loved it.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was super fun. It was like, oh, they're back. Like, this is great. Yeah. But I also just the thing I like about New Girl, but I also don't like about New Girl is that I wish Coach was in it more, man. I really like Coach. I really like Coach.
He brings a great aspect, but that's almost what's so good about the show, that there's like these different like characters who are in and out. Yeah. And like even though Coach is so great, like we get him for like 2 seasons, I think.
Yeah.
And I mean it's a scheduling thing, but even like Megan Fox's character, Reagan, like she's good and brings a different dynamic. And they change it up every once in a while.
And so everybody was like able to fit in, you know what I mean? Like they found their niche. And like by the time Reagan leaves, you're like, dude, I liked her a lot. Like, you know? Yeah. And it's like by the time Coach leaves, it's like, dude, like he was a part of the gang. Like, you know, so it's like it really fit in. And like when they play that one last game of True American, I was like nodding my head in respect. I was like,
I still don't know what the game, like what you do. But,
I don't know. My friend apparently has a friend who has a rule book about like how to play True American.
I think I saw something online that was like that. I don't remember what exactly.
Yeah.
But I think another part of New Girl that I really like is the different like pairs that they make, like Winston Cece mess arounds. Like
The
I feel
Winston
like,
Cece pairing is iconic.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that stemmed from them like having the same trailer or something like that, and so they would just hang out all
Yeah.
the time.
I also heard something about the Nick and Schmidt kisses. Apparently, like 98% of the time that Schmidt tried to kiss Nick, it was just very like impromptu. He was like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna go in. And so it was very like authentic reactions. It was like, ew, get the fuck off me. He's like, Schmidt.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So like Max Greenfield just like went in. He was like, fuck this.
They're all so good.
Yeah. So I mean,
Again, nothing but good things to say about New Girl. But it's not my number 4 show. It was my number 3, so we'll skip me at number 3. But
Okay.
My number 4 show is a show that I think does the best job when it comes to South Asian representation in the media. I think it does such a good job. I think it's subtle, but it's really well done. And I think it has just episodes of superiority. And I think there's only been 2 seasons of this show, but season 3 is rumored to be filming in London, and that's Master of None. Master of None.
I love Master of None.
That is a great show. It's really fantastic. I remember watching it for the first time my sophomore year in high school and not really understanding it because I feel like there's a lot of things you need to grow up a little bit for. Because I feel like a lot of shows are like that, where you watch them for the first time when you're like 12 or 13 and you're like, okay, this is, like it's good, but you come back to it like a few years later and you're like, holy shit, like I get this at a deeper level. And so, but Master of None is definitely like that. Went back and rewatched it about a year ago when I was in school, and I really, really enjoyed it. Just the way they experiment with a lot of different camera techniques and styles of like filming and storytelling, and they do a really fantastic job with that. Aziz Ansari, I mean, say what you want about his history, but he's been a lot of fun as the main character of the show. And I also just really enjoy a lot of the characters. It feels very authentic and it feels very like, I don't know, classy. It's a very classy show.
I love Master of None. Yeah. All the characters are great, and like the dynamics, and like you could drop this Indian dude in Italy and it's like it worked.
Yeah. Exactly. It just works. Yeah. And I mean, Aziz and Alan Yang do such a good job of writing the show. I mean, all the characters, like Dave feels like such a relatable character. Not only like Indian guys, but just like guys in general. He's just like a normal dude.
And Lena Waithe in the show is great.
Mm-hmm.
That episode, the Thanksgiving episode,
one of my favorites. I have actually I really like want to write an episode of like TV like kind of based on that structure. I think it's done so well. Where they take like the 4 different Thanksgivings, like one of them they get high and the other one she comes out, and like it's just all of these different like variables. And I thought, I mean, just that again, like I like the way they try different things, and they like tried every episode is different.
I watched one of the episodes for my screenwriting course, the one that was all like the different New York vignettes.
Mm-hmm.
Like where they're all going to the movie.
Right.
That's a great episode.
Great episode. It's very like film schooly. That's like what it feels like. It's like it's one of those shows that like they show in film school, like, oh, this is how you're supposed to make a movie or like make a show.
But it's like super authentic at the same time, which is like it's easy to get caught up in like the pretentiousness of things, but like it feels real. Like it's it's for sure close to home,
and it's authentic, and it's like real, which is storytelling, like you were saying. Like it's like the whole thing with his parents. Like going like the thank you dinner, and like the parents episode is one of my favorites because that's like one of the first episodes where they really show like the story of immigration and like what it's like to like live in a country where everyone is white and you're not, and it's like it's like whoa, like it's super cool, and like how first generation kids take things for granted, and there's just a lot of like cool themes in that episode for sure that I enjoy. But
his dad is so funny.
He's so funny, dude.
He's great.
He's like, oh, I didn't want to do the guitar lesson, so I'm done.
Yeah. He's so funny, dude.
His mom, too. His mom just does so much deadpan, but it reminds me of every Indian auntie I've ever encountered. It's like, no, Ramesh, that was just one long video. That line kills me every time.
He's great. Everything about the show is great. I mean, I know a lot of Indian guys, and I know you're like you guys' parents, so like it just
you can relate to it. Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a different way. Yeah.
Yeah, so shout out to Aziz's parents. They did a great job. But yeah, go for it.
Yeah. my number 3 show. So my number 3 show was almost my number 2 show, but I didn't know how to rank a miniseries, so I went with number 3, The Leftovers. I
I
don't
knew
know
you were
if
gonna
you've
put The
seen this
Leftovers in the
show
top three. Yeah,
or
I haven't
heard of
seen
this
it,
show.
but yeah.
This show is insanely good. I've watched very little things and had like I feel like I watched 3 shows and had this like cerebral experience, and this is one of the 3 shows, which makes like all 3 of my last 3 the 3 shows. But
Mhm.
it's all about basically the premise of the show is that 2% of the human population just poofed, gone. No one knows where they went. They just disappeared, and so like they kind of explain it in like, but that's not really you don't really need to know to understand what the show's about. And basically the show tackles grief, it tackles tragedy, it tackles religion, and it's kind of just about like the structures that humans create when they're trying to explain the unexplainable and deal with
Mhm.
like their own personal grief. And you get glimpses into stories, and like at some points it feels supernatural, but it really isn't. Um, it feels science fiction, but again, like isn't kind of. And the way the show wraps up is like genius. It explains the mystery of the show without really explaining it, and a ton of it is literally up to your interpretation. But to me, that's what makes it so genius. And this show is crazy. The acting's crazy. Carrie Coon, Justin Theroux, Margaret Qualley, just a star-studded like cast.
For sure.
And I mean, this shows I could go on for ages, but like it just the way they tackle religion, and as someone who is religious, was just like so nuanced and so like crazy.
Yeah. No,
I love it.
I've never watched it. I've just heard you talk about it incessantly. And I've also like heard so
Yeah.
many people talk about it. Like it's just amazing. Like this is an incredible show, like blah blah blah. So I definitely gotta check it
Yeah.
out. But yeah, nothing.
It's an HBO show, and all 3 of my last shows are HBO shows. So I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah,
all eight, pretty much every HBO show is a hit. It's just a fact.
yeah,
Uh,
like it's gonna have a certain level of quality at the bare
yeah.
minimum.
Like, I mean, you even look at like bottom barrel HBO shows, like they're not that bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But
But
yeah.
The
Uh,
Leftovers is insane.
yeah. I've heard a lot of good things. I've heard there's some cool twist endings. Is it like so it's a mini series, so it's like one season?
No. So my number 2 shows a miniseries. The Leftovers 3 seasons.
Okay.
Fairly short seasons, but it's like very interesting. And
For sure.
yeah,
I will definitely be checking that show out for sure. But my number 2, this is a show that I've like fallen in love with the last 4 years. And you probably heard me talk about this show incessantly my senior year of high school in particular, because this is when I first started watching this show. And I would just brag about it to every single person I met, and everyone would be like, shut the fuck up. No one wants to hear you talk about this show. And it's a show that's about a lot of family dynamics, and it's about one family, and it's on NBC, and Isaiah's laughing because he knows exactly what it is. And that's This Is Us at number 2. Man, I don't have anything bad to say about the show, honestly, except I don't like Randall, but that's besides the point. But I really like the characters on this show are so complicated, and the family and the dynamics and all of these things. I think it's relatable to me because like it's for the first time, like I feel like on TV you see a lot of families that are disjointed, right? That are like very like, like their shit sucks, like everyone hates each other, like no one's talking to each other. But like in This Is Us, it's like a family dynamic where the family is like this, they're super tight. And it's like coming from an immigrant household, like I feel like it relates to immigrants a lot more because like we're so used to having like such tight knit families and like these close dynamics where shit gets complicated, right? Like between siblings, between parents, and all of these things. And just the acting in this show, I mean, it cleans up Emmys for a reason every year. Like the acting is superior. I mean, Mandy Moore has like single-handedly revitalized her career through her role on this show. just and like the various like issues that they tackle masculinity, they tackle like LGBTQ, like black, now recently they've been doing stuff about like BLM, and like how a lot of that, like there is one black sibling who's adopted on the show, and he's adopted in this white family, and like the dynamics with that, like with the race, and like obviously those are all inevitable, like you were saying, like people try to be like, oh, don't make it a race thing, but like at the end of the day it is, and just all of these different variables in the show that kind of compound on each other, and they tell different stories about like the family and just about how dynamics shift over time, and like all of these different events. And it's one of the most just real shows I think on TV. Just I've cried pretty much 75 to 80% of the episodes I've watched. It's an emotional freaking roller coaster.
That sounds heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. It is a heartbreaking show, but it's so like real that you want to continue to watch. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so good. It's so sad that it's so good. And I agree. There's points of the show that definitely do hit this point of like soapiness, like it's getting a little dramatic. But like they do a good job of like towing that line a little bit and not crossing it and becoming a complete soap opera. But
I guess that's fair.
Yeah, and they do, and there's season 3. There's this is an arc that everyone really hates actually who watches the show, but I absolutely love it because it's based on a book that we read our junior year of high school called The Things They Carried. And so basically all of the Vietnam scenes, they do a bunch of scenes in the Vietnam War. One of the characters is, a parent, and he fought in the Vietnam War, and the whole like 5 or 6 episode arc is completely like they brought on Tim O'Brien as like a story consultant, and he basically just like wrote, it's like you see the things they carried almost play out on television, and it's so cool. As someone who's a huge fan of that book, I loved watching it like play out on TV. So yeah, but
that's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
That's actually kind of cool that they did that.
I've
never seen the show. I've never seen the show, but I feel like the I don't know if it's a misconception, is that it kind of just feels like a soap opera.
Yeah.
But maybe one day I will spend some time.
It's definitely worth it, man. Definitely worth it. In my opinion, I think it's worth. If the first season is a little slow at first, it takes a little bit to get into it, but like once you're like really into it and you like attach yourself to a couple characters, you just kind of just run with it, and the show runs. But yeah,
it's interesting. See, the thing with me is like, I like family dramas or like soap opera-y kind of things, but it's usually when it's like tied with something else. So like Friday Night Lights is kind of like super dramatic, and then you have sports with it. But if it's just a family drama, then we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's super cool because they do bring in like other stories too. Like they'll bring in, like they'll parallel it with they do a lot of really good parallelism. Like that's like their thing, is like they love paralleling this story with that story, or like with this thing that happened with this, and like that's their thing, is they love to do that, and they love bringing shit together and making your mind trip at the end where it's like, whoa, like, so
gotcha.
Yeah. But that's my number 2.
Interesting, for sure.
So I guess we're at the top of the list.
My number 2.
Oh, you didn't do your number 2.
I have number 2. Yeah, because you skipped New Girl.
Got it. Now go for it.
Yeah. So my number 2 is a mini series, and it's one of the most genius things I've ever seen. So if you guys know me as a comic book nerd, you'll know that my favorite graphic novel / like mini series comic book is Watchmen, and the sequel show is equally as good. And so like Watchmen is crazy good. It's crazy relevant. It does a great job so the original Watchmen series had a lot of political commentary on it, but it was very, very much about the Cold War. And so the show brings the Watchmen characters, what's left of them, to like the modern setting, and ties it in with like racial stuff, societal stuff. It brings backstory to like a minor character that was in the original Watchmen that had like a weird character design that it was never explained. Everyone was kind of curious about the character, but no one really explained it. And brought backstory to it for the show, and it's genius. It talks about like existence, existential crisis stuff, race stuff, our government, like different conspiracy theories, and just it's one of the most masterfully done shows. I can't really get into details of the show because it kind of spoils a lot. But if you've read the graphic novel, this has to be a mandatory watch. And if you want to, I mean, if you want to watch this, you don't necessarily need to read the graphic novel, but it would amplify the experience like 1,000% if you actually know the backstory. I wouldn't say just the movie does, like the original Watchmen movie is not that bad, but the graphic novel is a different experience.
For sure.
This miniseries is insane.
Yeah, that sounds dope. Definitely we'll have to check out the graphic novel first because I always like reading the book or like the movie before I watch the movie. But yeah, I've not much to say. Have you watched? I've heard good things about the show on Amazon called The Boys. Have you watched The Boys?
No, but it's similar in the sense where it's like I know The Boys from the comic book itself, but I haven't watched the show. Okay. It's similar in the sense to where it has like a modern dark setting of superheroes, but I'm pretty sure Watchmen's like much more cerebral and much more deep, if you will.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely worth a watch.
I think on Juneteenth they made all of Watchmen available for free.
That's cool.
It's no longer Juneteenth, but it's because the opening scene of the show is the Tulsa massacre, and like the weird thing about watching that was like it was a flashback, right, to like 1921 or something. And when I was watching it, I didn't know that was an actual thing. Like no one, like a lot of the reactions to the first episode of Watchmen was no one knew that the Tulsa massacre actually happened. So it brought a lot of depth, like it tied Watchmen into a lot of dark things that have happened in real life and are still happening.
Interesting. That sounds really good.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That'll definitely be on my list. So before we get to number 1, do you want to like rattle off your list real quick so that in case people forgot or anything?
Yeah. So number 10, I had Curb Your Enthusiasm. Number 9, I had Top Boy. Number 8, I had Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Number 7, I had Community. Number 6, I had Kingdom. Number 5, I had Glee. Number 4, New Girl. The Leftovers was number 3, and Watchmen was number 2.
Okay. And
fun fact, real quick.
Yeah.
Watchmen and The Leftovers had the same creator. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got a type.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean that means the guy's a great director or girl. Like there's great fucking
Damon Lindelof. He's great.
We'll definitely check him out.
He was a part of Lost.
Oh, of course. I think that's your number 1. I have a feeling.
No,
anyway.
It's not.
Oh, okay. My number 10 is Made in Heaven / Rami, so I technically cheated at number 10, but I couldn't decide. It's a tie between those two. Number 9 is On My Block. Number 8 is The Good Place. Number 7 is Euphoria. Number 6 is How I Met Your Mother. Number 5 is Entourage. Number 4 is Master of None. Number 3 is New Girl. And number 2 is This Is Us. And we're getting into our numero unos. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm down to go first.
All right, hype it up.
Oh my God. Wait. I'm sorry. Can you edit this out?
Yeah, that's totally fine. You're chilling.
Well, just shout out my grandma.
It's all good, bro. It's all good.
I told her not to come in here.
We're casual on this pod. It's fine.
Cool. So my number 1 is I feel like you should know this is coming, but because I talk about this show a lot with a lot of different people. It is called The Wire.
Oh yeah, I figured. I was waiting.
What is there to say about this show that hasn't been said by everyone else? This is hands down like as much as I love Watchmen and The Leftovers, they're on their own tier. Watchmen's a tier above. Or not Watchmen. The Wire is a tier above.
Mm-hmm.
The way they tackle social issues, race, the police justice system, just the government in general, corruption, social issues like I said, race, sexuality, masculinity, the pressures like of the world of gangs. If you don't know what the show's about, it's set in Baltimore, and you basically just follow drug dealers, policemen, and they kind of blur the lines between them, but not necessarily like in this like stereotypical way where it's like, this policeman's like really bad and it's like bad cop, good cop. There's a little bit of that, but it's like it's all a part of the game, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And the government is like they tackle governors, senators, like you see all the different levels of what is in this game, and the character development for everyone is insane. They do a great job of like bringing in different characters and like having people come in and out of the story. like who you think's gonna be the main character for once or for the show will like take a back seat for a season, but the story will progress because the show necessarily isn't like I guess that's the main emphasis of the show is that there's no main character in a way. Like you're just bigger people that you follow, but at the end of the day, this is like a cycle that's going to continue, and the season finale in a way kind of shows that it's all this big game of drugs and policemen hunting drug dealers. There's always going to be a new guy on the block, and it's like it's a crazy good show. Like
Yeah.
it tackles all of the different things that are within this world,
Mm-hmm.
and even does it through different avenues. Like you see the school system, how it's impacted in Baltimore, like the shipping docks, the newsrooms, politicians, real estate. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, I've heard. You've talked about this since we've known each other. Literally, like just. I mean, this is your show. I've always been meaning to watch it. I just have never gotten around to it. The way you described it, I feel like I need to watch it soon. Definitely will get on it. I have to. Yeah. I don't know. Because you've been telling me for like years now, and I'm just like I've not listened. And everyone talks about it too. Like a lot of people really enjoy it.
It's like everyone who finally watches The Wire like knows the hype about The Wire.
For sure.
But the problem is some reason people don't like to watch The Wire as much as like Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
It's because Breaking Bad has all like the cool merch and stuff, and The Wire is like this like dark gritty show that no one really talked about outside of the like. There's no action figures.
It's more underground. It's more underground.
Yeah, I mean it was like it never even like won that many Emmys. That's the thing. Like some reason
Michael B. Jordan was on it, wasn't he?
Yeah, like he got his start on The Wire.
Yeah.
Like, I think the problem was it was going on at the same time as The Sopranos, and I haven't sat down and watched The Sopranos, but that gathered a lot of hype, and it was in this early 2000s thing where like
everyone was trying to figure it out. Like everyone was trying to figure it out in the early 2000s, and I mean, I think it was The Wire was when did it start? Like one or a little.
It was like 2002 to like 2008, I think.
Okay, so it was like really in that weird era where it was like shows were just getting their start type of thing, where it was like because it was on the tail end of
HBO wasn't known as like, I mean obviously it was known for like higher quality stuff because it was a premium streaming service, but it wasn't like what it is now where everyone knows like, oh, a new HBO show thing's coming out.
Yeah,
got to sit down and watch it, like
for sure.
And there's no streaming services, like it's easily accessible now, like all of it's on Amazon Prime. You don't even need HBO.
Yeah Okay, so now that you gave a very serious show number one, it's time for me to give my number one.
Is this what I know?
I think you know what it is. This is one of my favorite shows of all time. I think it's a combination of just because I really like the characters. I really like just the combination of everything. And I really love the memories I have surrounded with this show. I'm just watching it with everybody that I've like known. A lot of my close friendships have been formed through this show. One of my I have a poster, or my brother has a poster in his room. I don't have a poster. I'm gonna get a poster for this show. Just so many inside jokes. When you want to talk about a show that has shaped the culture around the world, this show has single-handedly done that. Got to take it back to the central perk for number one, ladies and gentlemen. We got to have Friends. Number one TV show on my list. And let me explain why, because I know there's a lot of people that disagree with this take. Probably a 99% of the population. Friends is my number one favorite TV show for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it spawned How I Met Your Mother, New Girl, Big Bang Theory, all of these sitcoms that like exist because today and are great happened because of Friends and Seinfeld partially as well, but Friends was definitely a big part of that. I also think in the cultural context of things, Friends is massive. I mean, you can tell pretty much anyone in the world that they've probably seen an episode of Friends. Like, I mean, in India, I know is a huge deal. It was a big deal for my parents when they first immigrated here. Like, that was a show that my parents would watch. And so it kind of like got passed down in the family, and especially when it came back on Netflix, it was super cool to like watch it with the family and everything. I just like really enjoy the characters on the show, and I get it. It's a very white show. I will be the first person to tell you it is so white. It is so white. You're sitting there. I'm like, dude, my brown parents would not let me do any of this. But the show is very white, but it's just also just like so relatable in my opinion. I mean, I think there's just moments of the show, like when they're moving the couch and Ross is like, pivot, like that's just such an iconic moment. You know, and then like the lobster, like there's just so many, it's like New Girl where you have all of these inside jokes with the characters that it feels like you're a friend too. And like you're watching the show with them for 10 years. And finally, when you get to the end, and obviously there's that iconic scene where it's like, I never got off the plane, or I got off the plane, and you know, it's like, you know, they have the kiss at the airport or whatever, and like, you know, it's an iconic scene. It has one of the highest viewed finales of all time, I believe. Besides MASH, I think MASH was up there too.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cultural iconic show, and it's a show that you can put on at any mood that you're feeling, any vibe that you're feeling. You can just put on Friends, and I know a lot of people hate it, but it's honestly one of the loves of my life. So that's why it's number one.
I've never sat down and actually like devoted time to Friends. It's just something in the background that I've been like, oh, you're all right, I guess.
Yeah.
But I have no attachment to the show besides the fact that it does seem super white.
Absolutely.
But I think like New Girl is like my Friends, like or it's like a new generation's Friends. Like there's so many people who are in the same wavelength.
For sure. And I think Friends did gain for a lot of popularity when it got on Netflix, you know, because it was like 90s kids who were growing up in the 90s who were in their teenage years watching it, and now they're showing it to their kids. You know what I'm saying? And it's like it spawned this whole new generation of like people who really like the show, and now there's a reunion coming out and all of these things. And I get that there's like a lot of there is, I believe it's on HBO Max. It's coming out soon. I don't know when, but you know how like Fresh Prince did like a reunion with like Will Smith, and they were all just like sitting around talking about it. That's kind of like what it's going to be. It's not going to be a show.
Oh, so it's not like an episode or something.
Yeah. Even though I wish it would be. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah. Let me just address like the Ross thing real quick, because I know a lot of people just like absolutely despise the man, and I agree with you. I do too. I think he's so unlikable. I think he's tremendously misogynistic. He's also like very like anti-LGBTQ and borderline homophobic throughout the whole show. Like I'll be the first person to admit that. But
sounds horrible.
I mean, yeah, he says a lot of things where it's like, you know, but it also like, this is my argument to that. It's like in 1995 and 1994, when he was saying these things, the culture was different. And this is like, I think a cultural context argument that we all have to make when we think about shows in the 90s, in the 80s, you know, even like episodes of the Cosby Show, they say some shit where I'm like, yeah, that would not fly in today's society.
Yeah, the Cosby Show itself is just tainted.
Yeah,
in general.
I mean, just that cast. You talk about cursed casts, like that's a cast that, you know. Let's not get into that. But like, I mean, there's so many shows from like the 80s and the 90s which people look at as like quote unquote classics that like have a lot of, you know, flawed characters or like problems or any of that stuff. And that's just normal. That's going to be with every show from now on, because we live in this politically microscopic era where we look at every little line and every little thing someone says, right? Like I saw this one thing on like fucking TikTok the other day that was like, why Drake and Josh should be canceled. I was like, dude, why?
Oh, no.
Like, dude, come
Drake
on.
And Josh
like,
was hard.
Yeah, because it was like, oh, Drake is so like misogynistic to women, and I'm like, dude, you have to take the show for what it is. It was made in the 2000s. Politically, like the political correction was nowhere near where it is today, and I feel like you definitely do have to take that into account when you're looking at TV shows. So that's what I say to the Ross argument. Yeah, but that's our.
Friends isn't The Wire, but
no, I mean it's two different genres. I don't even think you can compare them.
Yeah,
like it's really hard. Like you can't sit there and be like, I wonder, like, you know. But and that's the thing. What's like why I brought you on was because I knew you would have such a unique opinion, and like you're very different than like in terms of like in a good way in terms of like what you like and like all of the different shows that you watch. Like, and I feel like you have a good variety in there too, because you had Glee and New Girl like in your top 5, right? Which is nice. And like it's not all the time about like serious shows. Like you respect all sorts of genres and like you're willing to hear out an open argument. So like I was like, yeah, let's why not bring on Isaiah? So
well, because at the end of the day, these shows are meant to like just like change your mood, whether you want to like think more about a certain subject or want to like escape your own life with like a comedy. So
for sure. Well, man, it was awesome having you on. Really appreciate your time. I know it's a busy Saturday and I know it's sunny outside and you have a lot of things to do. We're both students, so but yeah, man, it was a pleasure having you on. And if you guys like this episode, go like the episode down below, hit that subscribe button, go do all of that stuff. If you're on Spotify, click the follow button as well. Isaiah will be doing all of those things. And then also, what was I going to say? Damn. Oh, if you want to follow me on Instagram, follow me at Essential Question Podcast. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me at EssentialQU1. Link will be down below in both the Spotify and YouTube versions of this. And we're at 23 subscribers, which is really impressive, guys. So thank you so much. We're going to keep continuing to smash that subscribe button. 23, baby. Jordan here. But yeah, Isaiah, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Yeah, have a good one.
I'm glad I was
so much. Really appreciate every single one of you that listened to this episode on either Spotify or checked out the video edition of the episode on YouTube. All of the views and all the love that y'all show me is great, so hopefully we can keep that going and keep this content great. The length of the episode was a little long, so I do apologize for that, but we were having an absolute ball of a time having this conversation and ranking our top 10 TV shows of all time. So I can only hope that you guys had as good a time listening to me and Isaiah as we did having the conversation. But as per usual, go ahead and smash the like and subscribe buttons if you guys are on YouTube and you really enjoyed the episode. And if you do want more of this type of content, feel free to let me know in the comments down below on YouTube, or feel free to hit me up on any of my social media or anything. And if you're on Spotify, go ahead and hit the follow button and make sure that you follow me so that you're up to date for all of the cool ass episodes that we got coming up. We got a really cool mini episode coming out that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And be excited for the Birchwood story. Don't think I forgot about that. That's going to be coming out very, very soon. You know, the sunny days and the improved weather out here in Northern California gives you the inspiration to put out all the content that you got. So I will be doing so with the weather getting better, more content coming from your boy. And also that means finals are one step closer, so I have to worry about those. But anyway, that's a problem for future Anuj. But if you do like my content and like my stuff, feel free to please follow me on social media. I've actually linked the link to all of my social media stuff down below. But in case you want to hear the handles on Instagram and on the gram, it's Essential Question Podcast. And on Twitter, feel free to tweet at me, retweet, whatever. Follow me at EssentialQU1 on Twitter. And if you fuck with email, because there's some people out there that do fuck with email, essentialquestionpodcast@gmail.com is the email. Feel free to email me anything, just not too grotesque or graphic. That's all I ask. But anyway, go ahead and enjoy the rest of your day or night or afternoon or whenever the fuck you're listening to this. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, and I promise you guys there's more great content to come. But that's all I got for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Till next time, peace.